Hey lovelies, the following video does include spoilers, so make sure to read the title of this video. If you haven't read those chapters, please press pause, read up, and I will be waiting for you when you get back. My girl Everlane? Stop. I'm sick. I told you she was gonna come back. I just didn't think like this. No. Hey guys, welcome back to Lore Book Club. I'm your host, Cassidy Robertson, and this week's Quicksilver got simply a little crazy. So let's get into it. This week's Quicksilver was absolutely amazing. I really liked it. I feel like there's so many elements of this book that I love. I love the alchemy. I love the character development, except the main characters. They consistently piss me off. Everything I see on TikTok and on Bookstagram and everything is all like, Kingfisher this, Kingfisher that, oh my God, blah, blah. I don't get it. Okay, let me rephrase. I get it, but I'm also like, but maybe I'm alone on this, and maybe it's a hot take, but I'm really hoping next week, the final 100 pages, we all know in every romantasy book, it goes crazy in the last 100 pages. I really hope there's like some redeeming factors which make me understand the appeal fully. We started off this week thrown into battle, and it was described as smelling like rotten flesh. Anytime I have to read about rotting flesh, makes me feel like I'm gonna be sick. Wasn't a huge fan of that, but it definitely set the scene for how horrible this battle was going to be. And Malcolm just feels stronger than everybody. I can't really understand how they're going to win a war against Malcolm, which, I mean, they haven't over like thousands of years, because he just is elite. The rest of them just can't compete.
He's just elite. The rest of them can't compete.
We learned that they can't attack the border of Sancerothian because there's no light and their magic is like null and void there, which makes sense as to why they haven't won, because I guess Kingfisher could just go over and be like Shadow Daddy and then the war would be done. But they can't cross this river because as soon as they're there, or if they try and attack them, it's not gonna work. The vampire zombies are so gross to me, and when they were like tiptoeing across the ice, it definitely made me picture of, that scene in Game of Thrones where they're all on the ice and they're like trying to decide if they're gonna go on or if the ice is gonna break. Definitely was the picture I had in my brain. And when they were all like tiptoeing to see if they can cross, and then they did, and then that they went into the water and then like came back up onto the shoreline, terrifying. I feel like Callie Hart really writes the war element of it really well. I'm just not a huge fan of like the romance part of it, but the actual like plot and the alchemy and her like war description is super great. I really enjoy that, and I wish there was a little bit more of it. So I'm hoping for in book 2 that there's just diving a little deeper into that side of the story. As we learned last week, Cerys was given Solace, Kingfisher's father's sword, and my girl Cerys knows how to fight. She is wielding that sword like it is her God-given birthright to be a warrior on the battlefield. And I loved the quote by Rant. He said, "Don't you dare die on my watch, Cerys Fane. Fisher will never forgive me if his sole reason for living is torn to pieces on her first fucking battlefield." Mate. Sole reason for living. Bonded mate. The minute I read that, I was like, okay, they're mates. Because as soon as you start going into like my sole reason to be alive, they have to be mates. Cerys is an amazing fighter. As I said, she's absolutely whooping butt. And she has a moment where it's almost like the sword speaks through her. And everybody, like Ren is thrown off. He's like, what the heck was that? And she's like, I don't even know. And I thought that was really cool. Made me feel like she's like a deeper connection to the sword. And maybe, prediction, that sword is going to once again become a god sword because she has to have Fey blood. She has to. I'm 100% convinced she has to have Fey blood. There just has to be something deeper within her bloodline to have her have such a connection to Solace and even the Fey realm, 100%. And then my girl Everlane is on the banks. I was so sad. I said last week that Everlane was gonna come back, but I thought that King Bellicon was gonna come with her. No, Malcolm. Now, I was team Malcolm, which is crazy to say because he's like the actual villain, until he took my girl Everlane. My little sunflower sunshine was taken by Malcolm any bitter. Ren realizing that she had been enthralled by Malcolm was so sad to me because at the beginning of the book, there's definitely some love between Ren and Everlane, and it was almost like he was receiving a death sentence himself when he realized that she'd been enthralled. We meet Teladius, and I'm guessing he's one of the princes of Malcolm. He seems to be doing his dirty work. He's toying with Fisher. Again, all these vampires, there's some deep history between all of the vampires and Kingfisher, and I'm really excited for that to be like fleshed out, which I think we're gonna get in the last 100 pages of the book. Being enthralled means you were bitten multiple times by Malcolm, and she was bitten 12 hours ago, so the question is, can she still be saved? We learn it's never happened before, but they're gonna try their best. Of course they are, because it's Miss Everlane. I'm so sad. I don't want her to die, and I don't want her to turn into a zombie vampire. Like, at least be a cute one. Teladius also lets everybody know that he wants Ceres. He is desperate for the alchemist and he wants to make that trade. Kingfisher's never gonna let that happen, but at least we as a reader know that Malcolm does not have an alchemist in his grip. We get back to camp and the boys are absolutely stressed out of their minds. Kingfisher is catatonic, so Ceres turns to the boys and finally somebody starts answering some questions and we have a little bit of communication. We find out through Ren that Malcolm was the first to be affected by the blood curse, and he is the strongest vampire in the world. He's just elite and nobody can touch him. We also learn that being enthralled is being bound to the vampire, but it's like a 3-day thing, and then they normally either drain them or they turn into those vampire zombies. So Everlane, the odds are not looking good. The odds are not in her favor currently, but nobody's gonna give up on her because she's Fishy's sister. And oh, I love her. Oh my God, she needs to be okay. If they cannot figure out how to help her, she is going to die in 56 hours. Crazy. Everybody's stressed out about Everlane. Fisher's not talking. And then Danya comes in and has an absolute freak out at Lorith over the sword. She's like, "That's my sword. Give it back." He is like, "I'm sorry, Danya. It's my sword now. The sword picked me." Danya touches the sword and her hand gets blown to smithereens. I was reading that and I was like, girl, what? Like, was not expecting that. She's got a stump for a hand. And then Ceres thinks, thank God she didn't say it out loud, the most insane thing. I was like, Ceres Fane. I don't know why she hates Danya so much. Like, take a breath. She said Danya didn't deserve her hand to be regrown. Her theatrics had reached a point where she deserved to live with the consequences of her shitty temper. That's like 500 degrees too far. Danya's pissed about her sword. She touches God's sword. She loses her hand, and not even just one hand. It's her like fighting hand. And Ceres is like, "Serves you right, babe. Don't talk to my man like that. You don't deserve a hand." Crazy. Ceres, what are you talking about? You also fight. Danya's entire life is being a warrior. And Ceres is like, "Sirs are right." I was like, that is crazy. Kingfisher is absolutely not phased. He's like, "Your attitude's pissing me off, but I will take you back to Tulane and we will get your stump fixed." But before they do, Ceres becomes a blooded warrior where all the men cut themselves, put blood on her, and she is now a blooded warrior. And finally, after a billion pages, Kingfisher says Ceres Fane. He finally says her name, and it was a very satisfying time. I'm normally a big fan of somebody getting their name said when it's like a life or death moment, but this was kind of like an honorable moment, and for him to like really say Ceres was nice. I did really like it. I was a big fan. What did you think about it? As we know, Ceres and Danya do not get on at all. She sits down at the table and Danya is like, "You are going to be so embarrassed. Like, that is the seat that is reserved for the lady of the house. Did I not call that?" I saw that coming a mile away. And she's like, "Well, this is where I've always sat, so I'm gonna sit right here." Nobody even like flinches about it. And Danya, again, is so pissed off. I don't know why she's so mad. Like, it makes me feel like Kingfisher and her had a thing and she's like jealous because she is like so pissed off about everything Ceres does. And Ceres is so pissed off at everything Danya does. And apart from that, like, breaking of the sword, everything just feels very quick to fire. Like, I wish there had just been a little bit more of a breakdown as to why they don't like each other so much. For there to be so much hatred between the two, it doesn't really make that much sense. We also learn that Danya hates humans, but she does think Carrion Swift is cute. So me and Danya are just the same. They belong together is also thrown around the room so much that, again, it is fated mates. My one problem with this book is I feel like instead of us having questions that are answered later, it feels like before a question even comes, the answer is already there. So it kind of takes away any of the wonder and excitement for me, which is a little disappointing, and then it makes everything feel a little lackluster when things are revealed. But they're back in the forge, and finally the relics are being made. She's talking to the Quicksilver, and the Quicksilver reveals that they want a secret. And Ceres, quietly in her mind, admits that she does not want to go home anymore. Now that was a little surprising. I mean, she did say that she wanted Elroy and her brother. Pass. The Quicksilver then binds to the relic and says, "Save him, save the gates, save Avelia." Ceres, for some reason, puts the ring on her finger. Everything goes black. Amaranth Moore blasts so loudly until she takes it off. She then asks the Quicksilver, why is Kingfisher needing saved? He's safe, he's safe, he's safe, and the Quicksilver will no longer answer. I don't think Kingfisher has been safe a day in his life. I think it's naive of her to assume he's safe. Talena then comes to check on Ceres after the battle to see if she needs any healing, and she has all these beautiful tattoos on her hands. We learn so much more about the tattoos, that normally they're actually tattooed on and they don't just appear, and that is a thing from ghost stories and fables, and any sort of writing on the wrist implies God-bound mates. But with that comes tragedy. One of the pairs will die. Crazy. But prediction alert, I think Ceres Fane is going to die to be reborn into a Fae. I don't know. I think that's going to happen because somebody's going to be fated to die, but unless, there's a second book. After the conversation with Talena, Ceres goes to Fisher and she's like, I need to hear it from you. It is revealed that they are mates. It is also revealed that Kingfisher has known Ceres Fane is coming for centuries. His mother was an oracle. She wrote him a book of his life, and Ceres Fane was drawn in there, and that she was going to come to save him. However, in the drawings, she had Fae ears, which is what I'm saying. God bond tattoos, Ceres Fane is going to die to be reborn into a Fae. I think I'm right. I love guessing what happens in books. We learned that all of Fisher's behavior was done just solely to protect himself, and when he realized that she was human, he was devastated. He was never going to tie her to his life because it was so turbulent, and he's a mess, and he has a Quicksilver. It was a sick joke that his partner was actually human, and Ceres is rightfully angry that she was never involved in the conversation. And again, there was no conversations ever. So they just were grumpy from day one because he was like, oh, that's my mate, you're a human, and we can't be together. Right. What about just having a conversation? What about being like, oh, it's you? It's always so much more complicated than it needs to be. I wish for 5 seconds, these two characters could sit down and have a chat. And now finally, they're starting to talk, and we learn that Kingfisher's going to kill himself. And Ceres is like, no, you're not. I'm going to do everything in order to save you. And he's like, no, I'm gonna die and everybody will move on without me. And she's like, you're dumb, you're selfish, I hate you. Kingfisher just isn't considering anybody's opinions except his own, and it's frustrating, but that's who he is. He's very selfish. I find him to be a very selfish character. Now, in order to save Everlane, they need a witch to kind of put Everlane into a coma to try and get the venom out of Everlane's system. They all go to a witch's coven, and Danya is unlikable. She offends the witches. All hell breaks loose. They come back with no witch. Talena is healing Kingfisher 3 times a day, so the Quicksilver must be getting bad, which means he's going crazier and crazier and crazier, but he goes back to try and reason with the witches, and he brings back Isabella. Isabella, cool name. I used to be team Danya a little bit, because I just thought Ceres was being too hard on her, but when she decided to insult the witches when they needed something, I was like, Danya, you are too hot to fire. Take 15 steps back. Kingfisher makes amends with the witches, and Isabel, the small little red fiery witch, returns with him through the Shadow Gate. The humans decide that they're going to join the fight against Malcolm. Again, the bond is put into place, and she's like, do not stop me by saying I can't. And Kingfisher says, okay, fine, who am I to stop you? You're her mate. But this book, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just constantly getting annoyed. It's the eve before the big battle against Malcolm, and Kingfisher and Saris announce that they never want to spend a night apart, and they go back to Ballard. There's candles everywhere. He sets the scene for a super romantic evening, and it sounded absolutely beautiful. And then the famous line that is all over TikTok and Instagram and Goodreads is said. And Kingfisher says, "I'm about to introduce you to all 7 gods. When you meet them, don't forget to tell them I'm the one you worship on your knees." So this line is like, I think out of context better than in context. I'm just not a huge fan of the spicy scenes in this book, and I think it's because the stakes just never feel high enough. I don't know. It's just so rushed, and every scene feels a little forced. And the only one that I really liked was the morning scene. When I had read this kind of quote or seen it on TikTok, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And it just wasn't. Fisher then, while they're having sex, accepts the bond, and he gets these wings on his neck. He's like, you don't have to accept the bond, but I did. You still have time to choose. He's got a sick ass new tattoo, which I guess kind of mirrors the bird that she has on her chest. He says he loves her. She doesn't reply. She's like, thanks. And then Saris asks, when we went to Ballard, you never told me why we went. And he says, I went there for a little hope, which I really, really liked. Saris wakes up. She's in the best mood ever. She has a man who loves her. And then there's a note, and Kingfisher has decided to bear the burden on his own and do everything by himself. He says, everybody will forgive me. I'm going to send Everlane through the Shadow Gate. Be prepared to take her. She can't jump back through. And Saris is rightfully so angry because she's like, how dare you set this beautiful life up for us just to steal it the next morning. And the worst thing is he left Nimrel. And that kind of sends Saris over the brink. She gets back. Everybody's gagged when they read the letter. They're all pissed. They're like, how are we going to save him? He can't do everything on his own. And Saris says, it wasn't heroic or brave. It was fucking stupid. And isn't she right? Because literally you have amazing warrior friends and you're like, I'm going to do this by myself. He does have a death wish then. And I know he's sacrificing himself for Everlane. And he's like, I'm kind of a life for a life. And he's going to trade himself for her. I feel like you could at least bring backup and your sword. Carrion is like, if we're going to be going to the whatever realm, the vampire realm, I need a sword. And the fact that the sword wants a joke and he's just saying the shittiest dad jokes and he names him Simon is so on brand for Carrion Swift, and just absolutely loved that detail. Thought it was so good. And he was like, can I get some god power? And he's like, wouldn't you like to know? I loved that. Carrion Swift yet again uses his brain, saves the day, and he's like, there's 12 seconds after the Shadow Gate's there that when Everlane falls in, why don't we go back out and we'll go save Kingfisher? Brilliant idea, until the Shadow Gate is on the ceiling. Everlane comes absolutely crashing down onto the table, breaking it, and she's like, Saris, the water! Don't know what that means. So Carrion goes in. Saris isn't prepared. Her sword is across the room, and I'm like, she runs up, and then Lorith gets in. Ren isn't there. They crawl through the Shadow Gate and they free fall, break their ribs into a pool of ice cold black water, as one does. Of course it wouldn't be easy. Lorith saves her and then saves Carrion. He gives him CPR. He survives. They got broken ribs. He gives them Advil. And he's like, these are some T3s. You're gonna feel great. Don't worry. And it's clearly a drug. They're chewing on it. And he's like, don't swallow it or you're gonna shit your pants. And I'm like, okay. What a detail. They look up and they see this glass looking stone structure that they have to scale. And they're like, the one thing about us, we're from the third. We know how to climb a wall. They start climbing. Amaranth Moor is absolutely blaring. This is the loudest concert. We're in Brazil, 7 million people. Amaranth Moor, Amaranth Moor, Amaranth Moor. And finally, we learn it means release us. Captain Heron comes out of absolutely nowhere. Was not expecting that. I was like, hey, Cap. He's obviously gone crazy. He's like, this is the first level of hell. Horrible. So it seems like all these souls are trapped, and these are the ones that are going to become zombies. So I don't know if when you die and you were a bad person, you go to Malcolm's dungeons and scream Amaranth Moor. He creates a vortex. She's like, everything in me is telling me not to go in there. She goes into the vortex. She hears Fisher's voice and he's like, do not come here. But of course, Saris doesn't listen and she goes. And that is where we left off. A lot happened. And now I feel like we are at the precipice of when the craziness starts. And I'm excited to be in Malcolm's Vampire Lounge, and I'm excited to see what happens with Kingfisher and Saris, who's going to sacrifice themselves for who. Lorith is also there, and Carrion Swift, so it's going to be absolutely hell. But at least Everlane is safe. But is she? Can they save her in time? Are we going to learn more about the Isabel, the witch? Is she there for good intentions? Maybe she's Malcolm's witch. That would be crazy. And she just like doesn't do anything. Our book boyfriend of the week this week goes to, drumroll please, Lorith. I love him. He is a great warrior. He is a supportive friend, and he followed Saris into the Shadowgate. And he's going to be there to protect. He's going to be there for his brother, and he's just an absolute all-around good guy. Without a doubt, our book boyfriend of the week is Lorith. Our power scale this week is a very interesting one. We start off with Everlane because she's dying. God love her. She's going to be fine, but if she becomes a zombie vampire, then I think she's off the power scale. Then we have Lorith. He again is a great fighter, and he did follow Saris into the Shadowgate and saved both of their lives. Then we have Kingfisher. He is not number one because he left Nimrel and he sacrificed himself. And I just think it's okay to rely on your friends so you don't get number one. And our number one place this week goes to Saris Fane because she can finally make the relics. I feel like she's got a control over the Quicksilver, she's got Solace, and it's gonna be super cool to see how she grows over the next chapters. Our spice meter this week is a sensible 3, and our tension meter is also a 3. I'm gonna give tension because we learned about the mating bond, and I feel like there's more tension between the two of them, but this is not a 4 or 5. Just because they're sleeping together does not make it good. Now, our quote of the week is a really good one. I really, really liked this, and it was by Saris Fane, and she said, "That's just how things were supposed to be. There were moments that were gifts, meant to be cherished, only for as long as you could remember them." I love that. Memories are such a powerful thing, and I just think that was a really, really beautiful quote, so definitely my quote of the week. Now it is time for our Would I Survive segment, and chapter 31, no, I would not survive because they are in battle and I cannot fight. Chapter 32, yes, I would survive, mostly because the fighting stopped and we're just talking over a river with some evil people. I can do that. Chapter 33, yes, I can survive watching Danya get her hand blown off and just sitting around trying to make a plan for how we're gonna save Everlane. Chapter 34, yes, I would survive because I think I could put the Quicksilver into relics. I think I could do that. Chapter 35, yes, I could survive because I love communication. And finally learning that Kingfisher was my mate, I would survive that. Although he would probably want to die because I would be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Chapter 36, yes, I would survive learning how to save Everlane and meeting a witch. I would survive that. Chapter 37, yes, I would survive having spicy time with Kingfisher and having him say I love you. Kind of camp that she didn't say it back. Chapter 38, yes, I would survive, although I would be so angry, and again, Kingfisher would want to be dead because of how angry I would be that he just like went MIA. Chapter 39, no, I would not survive landing in that water. I just wouldn't do it. It would be a hard pass on that one. I hope you enjoyed reading this week. I think we learned a lot in these chapters, and now we're getting to the point where all hell is about to break loose. For next week, please read until the end of the book. Next week will be our last video for Quicksilver, and I'm really excited to finish the book. And I will also be telling you what book we're reading next, so get ready for it. And I hope you guys are liking Quicksilver. It's definitely not my favorite book I've ever read, but it's really fun doing this with you all, so let me know what you think about it. Am I alone with not really being like a 10 out of 10 fan, or are you guys also feeling the same way? Make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell here on YouTube so you never miss a video. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Lore Book Club. I post funny little videos every day there. Have a lovely week, happy reading, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Love you!